you sign this ultimate clause when you go into the military, and that is that you're willing to give your life.
In his book, Grateful American, Gary Sinise explains why he believes he's been given a lifelong mission to honor and serve those willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. He shared with me how it all started.
I have veterans in my family, on my side of the family and my wife's side of the family. And I got to know them, and back when we started dating, back in the mid-'70s, early '80s, and they had an enormous effect on me. That just talking to them about their experiences in Vietnam and what it was like to go there and serve, the difficulties that they faced, the challenging things they faced in combat, and then to come home and have another battle going on, because at that time the nation was divided over the war. And the Vietnam veteran were the kind of the victims of this division that was happening. And it was a shameful period in our history, the way we treated our veterans. And I felt a lot of compassion for our Vietnam veterans at that time. So I started supporting them in various ways in the '80s and getting to know them, and visiting the local VA hospitals, talking to veterans who were struggling with post-traumatic stress. That had a gigantic impression and impact on me. And then in 1993, after I did Of Mice and Men as a film, the filmmakers saw that. The filmmakers of Forrest Gump saw Of Mice and Men. They asked me to come and audition. And so I read it, and it was for the part of a wounded Vietnam veteran.
Wow.
And I thought, there's something at play here. Maybe this is, maybe like Forrest Gump talks about and Lieutenant Dan talks about, it's kind of a destiny thing. It truly was life-changing in not only my career, but just in setting the stage for what would come later on in terms of my work with veterans.
Another defining moment would change the world. Fast forward, 9/11. I was there within 36 hours. Spent 3 weeks there at the pit, sitting surrounded by the rubble, the smoke, and everything, and body parts. How did it affect you?
Everyone, our hearts were broken.
Yeah.
We were scared. You know, we didn't know, was this the beginning of more attacks? What was going to happen? And I remember going to our little church, our little Catholic church, and it was packed. Everybody was looking. We all wanted something to help us get through this experience. And I remember the priest coming out, and I remember the first thing he said was, in his homily, he said, "This has been a tough week." And that really hit me, because it had been such a tough week. And I don't remember everything he said, but I remember my heart just breaking. It was just breaking. And then I remember getting this, just feeling this call to service as a great healer, to help heal that broken heart.
For Gary, that meant supporting our military. So in 2003, he went to Iraq with the United Service Organizations to encourage them personally. Later, he also visited those wounded fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan at Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany.
I walked in, and the first place I went was a room, and it was filled with about 30 service members, all off the battlefield with various wounds. But they were the kind that were going to be patched up and sent back to the battlefield. I looked around the room, there were all these 1,000-yard stares, guys that, you know, they'd been in battle, and they were dealing with some serious stuff. And then one of them looked at me, and he started screaming, "Lieutenant Dan!" He started screaming, "Lieutenant Dan," and he recognized me under my USO hat, and then somebody else looked up, and somebody else looked up, and then the whole mood in the room just changed.
Inspired by their response to his on-screen character, Gary tapped into his rock and roll background and formed the Lieutenant Dan Band.
First stop we went was way down in the middle of the Indian Ocean to an island called Diego Garcia. And we have like B-1 bombers down there, and there's a naval base and everything. And it's way out. It's very hard to get to. I mean, it takes like 24 hours to get there. And so that's where the USO sent us first. And I always wondered, well, maybe they sent us so far away just in case we couldn't play. They'd, nobody except the people on the island would hear us. But they also sent us, after that, we went to Singapore, and then we went to Korea. So we did about 7 shows on that tour, and it went great.
Since then, Gary has done over 100 shows for the USO and other organizations. He also created the Gary Sinise Foundation in 2011 to help service members and their families. One of the many ways is by building smart technology housing for disabled vets.
We want to do everything possible to make that home less challenging and give you the opportunity to be more independent.
But the outreach that grips his heart the most is taking children of fallen heroes to Disneyland.
Many of the kids had either T-shirts with the faces of their fallen loved one, their mom or dad, whoever it was that they'd lost. And they may be from these little towns around America, and they're the only kid that has a military parent who's been killed. Mm-hmm. And they can't relate to anybody. And then they come to that event, and there's 1,000 other kids that are going through the same thing, and it's very powerful.
As Gary brings a sense of family to many service members, he's grateful to them for protecting our freedom, and to God for the mission to honor and serve them.
Our faith has been a great source of strength. I pray for our service members, and the more I found called to service, the more I believed that there was something else at play, and now I have no doubt that I'm being led in certain directions.